All right, ladies and gentlemen, lesson 2.5, we're going to review our division of decimals skills. Again, this is a review topic. So at the end of it, hopefully we're able to strengthen our division of decimals. In other words, we're using long division, practicing our long division skills. A couple of vocabulary terms to deal with first. First is divisor, and that is the number you are dividing by in a division problem. So as a simple example here, if we're doing 8 divided by 4, 4 is the divisor. That's the thing we're dividing by. We also have the dividend, and that is the number to be divided. Okay, and this is the number that goes under the little box, if you want to call it a box, the division box. So in our 8 divided by 4, 8 is the dividend. It is the thing that we are dividing into. So our keys to remember, our divisor cannot be a decimal in long division. So what we're going to do is multiply by multiples of 10 so that we don't have a decimal in our divisor. If we are going to be multiplying by 10, then we have to multiply both the divisor and the dividend. And basically what that means is we're moving the decimal to the right until we get it to the end of the divisor. And then once we move it to the right in both the divisor and dividend, we will move the decimal straight up. And I will show you that as we do some examples. So okay, so 4.32 divided by 3.6. Let me go ahead and get a writing tool here, and we will go through our steps. So 4.32 divided by 3.6. Okay, so in the box goes the 4.32. 3.6 is outside. And again, we are not allowed to divide by something that has a decimal in it, at least in the middle of it. So what we're going to do in this case is we're going to multiply this number by 10, which is the shortcut is going to move this decimal one place to the right. And so now the decimal is at the end. Well, if I multiply this by 10, I have to go over here and also multiply by 10, which will move the decimal one place to the right. And this is where step number 3 comes into play. That decimal, once we place it, will go straight up when we get into our answer. Okay. So as we go through the steps now, technically what we're doing, let me go ahead and delete this and delete this. Okay, I have moved the decimal one place to the right in each by multiplying each by 10. So now we're dividing 43.2 by 36. Okay, and so we go through our division steps and we ask ourselves, how many times does 36 go into 4? Well, it doesn't. Now, if you want, if it works for you, if you like to put an X in there to tell you that you can't go into that, you can. Or if you want to leave it blank, or I've seen people put zeros in there. But 36 cannot go into 4. Okay? 36 into 43, well, that is 1 time. So now we're going to multiply 36 by 1. 1 times 36 is 36. And we're going to subtract. 3 minus 6, can't do it. Not without borrowing anyway, so I will go ahead and do that. 13 minus 6. Well, 13 minus 6 is 7. 3 minus 3 is 0. So then we have this 2 here, which we are going to drop. And so now we're going 36 into 72. And I'm going to estimate that to be twice. All right. So one of the things here, if we estimate, if I go 2 times 36, that ends up being bigger than 72, I'm going to actually go back up here and drop this down probably to 1. If it's too small, then I can always go back and increase it. And you may have to do a little guess and check. 6 times 2 is 12. Carry my 1. 3 times 2 is 6. Plus 1 is 7. And 72 minus 72 obviously is 0. And so at this particular point, we are actually done. We don't have to go any further. So our solution in this case is 1.2, 1 and 2/10. All right. 12 and 95 hundredths. Oops, sorry, 95 hundredths. Let me write that accurately. Divided by negative 1.25, or 1 and 25 hundredths. Now, the one thing I know already when I finish this problem, I better have a negative answer, because a positive divided by a negative is a negative. Okay. Going back to our rules, we are not allowed to have this decimal inside the number itself. So in this case, the shortcut is actually to multiply by 100, because when we multiply by 100, the decimal automatically moves 2 places to the right. So when I do that, the decimal is now at the end, and whatever I do here, I have to do the same thing over here. So my decimal is going to end up at the end behind the 5, and then in my answer we will move that decimal straight up. So now, for the sake of having it out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these. So what we're actually doing here is we're going to end up dividing 1,295 by 125. Okay? So now, we go through the, how many times does 125 go into 1? Well, it doesn't. And again, if you want to use the X to show that you can't put it in there, fine. How many times does 125 go into 12? Well, it doesn't. Okay. How many times does 125 go into 129? Well, that is 1 time. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1. And we will subtract them. 9 minus 5 is 4. 0 and 0. So if you want the zeros, you can have them. Next number comes down. Drop the 5. Well, how many times does 125 go into 45? Well, we know it doesn't. Now, in this case, I do need a 0 placeholder. Okay? So now, I'm running out of numbers, which means I'm going to add a 0, and I am going to drop it. So now we are going to ask ourselves, how many times does 125 go into 450? Now, okay, so there was a knock on the door. I paused it, so let's continue from here. So we are trying to now figure out how many times 125 goes into 450. Now this is where you can do a little guess and check. Okay, and I'm going to do this in red here just for the sake of doing it. Let's say that I go, how many times does this go in there? If I think it's, let's say it's 4 times. Because I know 1 times 4 is 4. Makes sense. So I'm going to try it. Okay, 4 times 5 is 20. Carry my 2. 4 times 2 is 8. Plus 2 is 10. Carry my 1. 4 times 1 is 4. Plus 1 is 5. Oops. Wait a second. Too big. Well, then I'm going to come back. I'm going to go ahead and erase these. And this is where we probably want to do things in pencil. And I can back it off. And I go, okay, probably 3 times. 3 times 5 is 15. Carry a 1. 3 times 2 is 6. Plus 1 is 7. And 3 times 1 is 3. It fits now. Okay, so when I do my subtraction, it looks like here I have to do a little borrowing. So there's 5, borrow again, 14 minus 7 is 7, so 75. Add a 0 and drop. Okay, if you want to draw arrows, you can. 1 into 750, well, if I learned something from the last time, 1 times 7 is probably going to be too big, so I'm going to try 6. 6 times 5 is 30, carry a 3. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 3, well, that's 15. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 1 is 7, and you'll notice here, 750 minus 750 is 0, so it terminates. Oh, we already said this better be a negative, because a positive divided by a negative is negative, so a negative 10 and 36 hundredths. All right, 9 divided by 1.25. 9 divided by, so 9 in the box, 1 and 25 hundredths. Again, decimal is inside, so I'm going to multiply by 100, which will move the decimal 2 places to the right. Now my decimal here is at the end, so it's got to go 2 places to the right, which means I'm going to have to add a couple zeros. Continue on my box, and my decimal, which is here, will now go up. And so we are actually going to divide 900 by 125. And so I'm going to take a shot at this, and let's see. In my last one, I had a problem with 1 times 9. Again, learning from what I did before. Let's try 8. 8 times 5 is 40. Carry my 4. 8 times 2 is 16. 17, 18, 19, 20. Just adding it up. 8 times 1 is 8. Plus 2. Oops. 10. Too big. Well, looks like I got to back it off. Okay, and if you need to do that, sometimes it happens. So So I will go ahead and 7 times 5 is 35. You do get to work on your multiplication skills here. 7 times 2 is 14, plus 3 is 17. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 1 is 8. And now, if you want to do this one here, though, I know that 900 minus 875 is 25. So if you want to sort of skip the subtraction and all the steps, if you see it, you don't have to. But if I borrow over, okay, 125 into 250 to me looks like twice. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. 2 times 1 is 2, and 250 minus 250 is nothing. No remainders, no. 7 and 2/10. And then 12 divided by 1.6, so 12 in the box. Oh, negative divided by a positive will be a negative, so when I get all done with this, and it looks like the decimal will have to go one place to the right in this case. So my decimal is here at the end because it's not given one place to the right. It means I have to add a 0, and my decimal will then go straight up. So we're actually dividing 120 by 16. All right, so how many times does 16 go into 1? Well, it doesn't. How many times does 16 go into 12? It doesn't. How many times does 16 go into 120? Now, one thing that you can do here is ask yourself, how many times will 1 go into 12? Well, it goes in 10 times. The problem is I don't have a place for 10 in there. So I'm probably, if I'm going to do a little bit of guess and check, I'm probably going to back it off to 9 or 8. I'm going to go ahead and do 9 and try it out and see what happens. 6 times 9 is 54. 9 times 1 is 9, plus 5 is 14. Oh, too big. Okay, so back it off. Try 8. So let's go 8. 6 times 8 is 48. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 4, 12. Oops, still too big. And that may happen sometimes, a little guess and check. Now, you may have other ways in which you can estimate, but 42. 7 times 1 is 7, and plus 4 is 11. Now again, if you want to do all the borrowing over, you can. I noticed that the difference between those two is 8. But so add my 0, drop my 0. 16 into 80. Now 1 times 8 would probably be too big. Yes, it would, because this 6 would kick it over 80. We know that 7 is going to be 112. That's probably too big. So I'm going to estimate at like 5. Let's see what happens. 6 times 5 is 30, and I know that 5 ends in 0, or 6 times 5 is 30, it ends in 0, so I'm taking an educated guess that this will end up being a 5. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8, and yep, 80. So terminates right there. Negative 7 and 5/10, because remember, negative divided by positive is negative. So. All right, that gets us to the end of the section. Time for you to practice.